Right, Fahrenheit 451. I was very excited to read this. I was like, this is like a seminal dystopian piece. It's like, oh, what's the word? It's very short, it's very to the point. The premise is amazing. I love it. It's like books are outlawed and firemen are this group that are, instead of, they used to put out fires, and how they start fires. And I'm like, I love it. And they're burning books. This idea of like creativity dwindling down in the form of books, like amazing. And so yeah, I was very excited. And I just, like, as the book was going on, I was like, have I missed something? Is there something I'm missing here? Have I not read this properly? And then it just got to the end of the book and I was like, what was that? Like, what have I read? Um, you know, I am gonna do spoilers because, quite funny, but I'm gonna roast this book. Awful, awful. But I know. But right, so first things first, I don't know what the message of this book is. Like, is the message of Fahrenheit 451, is it that television is taking over books? Books are like the main outlet of creativity, and television is just noise? Is that what the message is? Because it's like, in this, there is TV, so it's not, so there is a creative medium of TV, but all the TV is like trashy soap opera TV. And I'm just like, I understand that TV can be trashy like that, but so can books. Books can be trashy as well. And it's like this idea that like TV is going to take over books. I don't know, like, I think I saw a review where in an interview as well that Ray Bradbury said that that's kind of what he was going for. But again, I need to check that. So I'm not going to talk about that because I'm like, I don't know. But also, if the message is like, oh, books are going to take over, like, no, TV is going to take over books, and that's what's going to happen here, and the art of like reading a good book is going to be lost and stuff, and the art of being creative and free thinking is going to be lost. I'm just like, is that true? Like, I just disagree with that so much. I'm like, I just think that's such an ignorant outlook on TV, to be honest, and the idea of and the medium of film. Yeah. What
think that's what it's about.
would you, okay, so what do you think, it's about? Tell me.
I
So this idea of like conflicting individuality and like trying to shut down this idea of thinking for yourself. I was just like, but like, so but like that TV was like the tool to do that, I guess. Like, you can't have books that just do that as well, or like, I don't know, you can't have like slogans to shout that would do that, like, that it has to be TV that does that. And also, like, I think this is this is the thing. So like, this idea of books, like, okay, firstly, something I want to mention. I think I've like missed out parts in it. Can you help me out here? Because I think I've missed out things. So I think I've misread things. So beginning sentence of Fahrenheit 451 was, it was a pleasure to burn, which I think is like just an outstanding like first sentence. I think it's so good. It's just like, it just hooked me. I was like, yes, oh, this is so good. And like, I just think that it's, the thing is, so it says it was a pleasure to burn, and it talks about like, loving the idea of that Guy Montag like loves to burn things, and there's a fireman, like, it's just awesome to do this, and he's having a great time. And and I get that it's like, oh, he goes from this fireman who loves to burn things to this like curious person about books, and then now he's on the run because he realizes that how useful books are and how much they can open up this idea of individuality. Have I got any of that wrong so far in terms of Guy Montag and stuff? Like, roughly, that's so okay. I think there's a problem here. Firstly, if he's an ignorant fireman who loves to burn, it's definitely not at the beginning of the book, because in the beginning of the book, when it's a pleasure to burn and all of this stuff, like, he's already stolen books at that point. Like the story goes on and he takes a book and it makes this big deal about how he's taken this book and stuff, but it also alludes to the fact that he has stuff in his ventilator, like in his like grill. And then when he steals this one book, he like shows his wife, oh, I've got this book, and she's like, what? And he's like, no, 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 check this out. And he's just got loads of books in like his ceiling, and I'm just like, what? So like, was it at the beginning of the book, was it a pleasure to burn? Because this guy has been taking books before that point. Like, he had it's in the present. It's like, that happens. He meets Clarice. He goes about his time. They get to the woman's house and they burn her with her books, and he takes a book. So that's those are the events. But he has this book library that he's been stealing all this time. So I'm just like, he's been doing this before the start of the book. So is it a pleasure to burn? Like, is it really? Because he's been doing this before. So I'm just like, you're trying to tell me that this guy is completely naive and completely like that, but He's not though. Like he's not. Like maybe this is the point where finally he breaks the dam and he actually reads them, sure. But he has been hoarding them loads. So this idea that like stealing a book is this like, what am I going to do? Is Captain Beatty going to find out? Is he even going to know? They keep this meticulous list. He's got like a library of books. So I'm just like, where has he got these from then? Has he always had them? Has he not turned them in? If he hasn't turned them in, does that mean he knows about books? I'm just like, what's going on here? And then like BT gives him that lecture about like, oh, every they used to teach us this back in the day, but they don't anymore. Like they used to give us some of the books to read, but like he's telling Guy that. So like if he's telling Guy that, then Guy by implication doesn't know that was a thing that happened to firemen. So then why is Guy taking books in the first place before the time he takes this one book in the story? I'm just like, what is going on? Like, is it? And then then immediately like he goes to Faber and then he reads the they come up with this plan and he like screws up the plan like immediately, like literally like day of or day after. He just like the Mildred and her friends are around. He just reads a book to them out loud when books are like criminally outlawed. Also, speaking of books being criminally outlawed, when he's on the run and on that like what is it, the seashell radio or that radio thing, and it's like Guy Montag wanted fugitive. He's on the run. He's got a book. Books are illegal. Books are outlawed. All of this stuff. He's on that. There's a bit where there's like a police car that's going to chase him, and he's like, oh no, I've got to run, and he drops a book and he doesn't think twice. He's like, leave it, there's not enough time to get that book. And this car is running at him, right? And then he's dropping the books, and then it like he drops the one book even, and then it swerves and he falls over and it swerves aside and he drops all his books, like they spill out of his hands. And I'm just like, and then it turns out that it wasn't a police car, like it was it was like a bunch of kids just making a joke. But I'm just like, how outlawed are the books if like they see him drop a book? Like, even if they don't know it's Guy Montag, that's illegal in the first place. So I'm like, how dystopian is this world? Like for example, compare that to 1984, where Winston's like next door neighbor's kids are ratting on their parents. Like, that's how dystopian and like watertight that dogma is of like reporting stuff. Like, how bad are books if the kids can drive past someone who spills a bunch of books and they don't report him and they just think it's a joke? Like, I don't understand. It's like, oh, they could have missed the books when he fell over because they were swerving, but as he was running, he dropped a book. So I'm just like, they must have seen that. So even if they don't know he's wanted fugitive and murderer Guy Montag, it is still a dude with a book. Like, so I'm just like, what like is that? I just don't think that's consistent. I'm like, that's like, how scared are? I don't know, how scary is books? Like, how scary is the concept of like, like how scary is the concept of people finding you if you have a book? Like, are they outlawed? Are they really? Because it doesn't really seem like it seems like there are penalties for it when Ray Bradbury wants there to be penalties, but then he also writes bits where oh the kids just see a bunch of books and that's fine, oh, if they've like publicized this idea, like there's a war going on, a war that I do not care about, and like, because there's not like I don't like this war. I felt nothing about this war as well, but just what you were saying there about like it's not as big a deal as to everyone else, but like they will burn you if you have any. Like, books are a huge but if books aren't as big a deal, I feel like that like destroys the premise of Fahrenheit 451, where it's like books are getting burned. You should care about that. But also in this world, books aren't that big of a deal. But then they are to firemen. But then wouldn't they report it? If people are unindividual, then they would have this mentality to report a crime. Like, because so I'm just like, if I don't think you can have it both ways personally. Like I didn't write Fahrenheit 451. Like, I'm not an author. I'm not a best-selling author. I don't know. I didn't win the late Pulitzer Prize in 2007. I didn't do that 54 years after the book was published. I didn't do that. But I'm just like reading this, and I'm just like, how bad are books? So they're bad to some people, but they're not to everyone. But if you have them, you could get burned. But like, no. So with that woman, for example, it's like, yeah, so they're not saying they burn you with the book, but they also won't, if you choose to get burned with your books, they'll let that happen. And I'm just like, imagine getting caught with heroin and they they destroy the heroin, they destroy you as well. Oh, I'm going to die with my heroin. It doesn't make any sense. But like, I understand that books are different to that. I understand it's like kind of a false equivalency. But my point is just like, it's so extreme with books. It's like, at any cost, books must be destroyed at any cost. So you can't have that as like a cornerstone of this world, as like a key premise of this world, and then just have other people that don't care about that and have no consequences. Like the kids, like the kids don't care that that guy had a book when they were like driving at him. They didn't care. They didn't report it. They drove back and then he was hiding. So I'm just like, I know that. I know that that's true because this hound is following his scent. And I'm like, where are the kids telling the police? Like, where is this? And like, I don't think that you were saying that 1984 was like heavy-handed. I don't think, I just think 1984 is consistent, whereas I think this is an inconsistent world. Also, that like just like I'm not going to put this in podcast, but like just that incel group at the end of just like these old men that are just like, I'm the book, I'm this book. I hated that. I hated that. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I really didn't like that. But I think that's where it falls apart though. I think it's like this premise that just is not executed well. Like you can leave stuff to chance. You can leave stuff like, you don't have to go into like meticulous detail. But if you've said to me, if you've literally said, show them in this world, books are outlawed. Okay, that sounds quite scary. Oh, it gets even scarier. If we find you with a book, we're just going to burn all the books, probably going to burn your house down. And if you want to die with your books, you can do that. We're not even going to arrest you. We'll just do that to you. You either get arrested or we'll just burn you. We'll probably burn you anyways if you do get arrested. Okay, that sounds pretty scary. So what happens if like someone catches me with a book? Oh, they'll report you. Oh, that sounds really scary. Yeah, of course. So then I'm reading this book and they catch and the kids see Guy Montag with a book and nothing happens. Like, oh, like, but because it's just like, because it's just such like you're telling me this is some sort of scary world where you have to watch your back. It's like Guy Montag has to watch his back. He can't say anything, and all the walls and Captain Beatty's might know can he swap the book? Can he replace the book with another book? Or will Captain Beatty know about the roster? It's like, okay, so there's like a meticulous detail in the lists of books and stuff. There's like but then it's just like, but not to everyone. And then I'm just like, if it's not like a world where this fear of books is so evenly spread, why do I care if it's like a niche group of people then? If it's just firemen and policemen and it's a crime, but then it's also not that big a crime, but then it is that big a crime because the consequences are so bad if you have it. And is it that big a crime? Because, well, like, no, it's like a big deal. And like, Ray Bradbury's like, oh yeah, no, it is, like, not Ray Bradbury, but in the book the book that he wrote, it's like Ray Bradbury's like, oh no, it is a big deal because Guy Montag reads it out to them and they report him, and his own wife reports him. And I'm just like, I don't know. I still don't know why Guy Montag did that. He's like, oh, this will convince you to love books. I'm like, Guy, have you not been a fireman for like decades? What's going on? Like, what is going on? like, have you not seen the consequences of this? Did you not literally like a day ago have a plan with Faber to like systematically do this secretly? Do you not have Faber in your ear telling you not to do this? Did you not agree to all of this? Did you not even promise to do all of this? And and he just like screws it up immediately. And I'm like, oh, that's his blossoming love for the curiosity of books. Sure, it's also dead stupid though. Like it's just stupid. And I'm just like, I can't, but it's like, this idea of living better. I feel like you already had that conversation with Faber when they were like, oh yeah, books are great. I'm on your side. You're on my side. You've put the fire back in me, Guy. Ironically, you've put the fire back in me because you've like, you've made me love my, books again and not be a coward anymore. Let's do this. And Guy's like, yeah, let's do this. I'm going to go home. We're going to figure out Captain Beatty. We're going to do all of this. And I'm like, great. He's got a plan. He's motivated. This is great. And he just screws it up immediately. And I'm just like, I understand that's meant to be like, oh, here's some tragic turn. He just loves his books and it's to a fault. I'm just like, but like 50 pages ago, it was like a pleasure to burn. Like, what's going on? I thought it was a pleasure to burn. Like it just feels like his character development is like it's not like a gradual line. It's not even like an exponential line. It's just a straight line upwards. There's no time and there's maximum character development. And I'm like, it's just so unrealistic. I think I'm like, what is going on? Like, didn't this take place over like, I don't know? Didn't it take place like over? Actually, I don't know how long it took place over, so I can't. That to be fair, I can't say. But like, I just, and then like at the end, this whole like this dog chase that happens, and then they find like an imposter just to make it seem good. I'm like, that's quite cool. That's quite dystopian. But again, that's not like. You wouldn't have this, like, you're telling me they knew this person was like doing something nefarious. So, like, no, they were doing something boring, or like they were doing something. So they had that person as like a contingency in case they couldn't find the fugitive. So not even Guy, just another crime. If they can't find someone, they always know where someone else is, so they can imprison them anyways and pretend to have the fugitive. I'm like, if you've got this kind of surveillance on people, why are you not surveilling the firemen? Especially if you know that especially if Captain Beatty's like, oh, this happens to firemen. Like, why are you not monitoring the firemen. Why has Guy not been caught before? That's what I'm saying. It's like Winston in 1984 just gets caught, like, or he's caught immediately, right? For the whole book, he doesn't know it, but he's caught immediately, right? The moment he does something, they know, and you find out at the end of the book that's the case. Spoilers for 1984. What am I supposed to say? But like, just in this, there's none of that, and yet there's this meticulous surveillance on like a jaywalker. Like, oh, this guy walks in the woods. He's going to be our go-to when we can't find Guy Montag. And I'm like, you watch people, then you know what people do, and you know what their schedules are. So is there some sort of surveillance? So why has Guy Montag got a fucking library like just in his house, and no one knows about this? Like, I just don't understand. I don't like Clarice is a free thinker, and then her her family is like free thinkers, and like Guy likes Clarice because she's like, you know, treating him with respect and like challenging him on things and looking at him directly and all that kind of stuff. And it's like Clarice just, some of my friends said like Clarice just felt like that, like, you know, pixie cut girl that had like different views, like that stereotype. And I'm just like, yeah, it kind of feels like that. It doesn't really feel like a genuine character. Like, I don't think any of these people are characters. But they're analogies for things and things like that. Great. It's not a good story though. It's not fun to read. Great premise. I just not good. Not like the only thing. The only am I stressing you out because I'm right though? Is this what it is? Like I'm just again like he wrote this book in 9 days. Just give it like another 9 more days just to double check that what you've written isn't dog shit. Like, just double check. Do you know what I mean? Double check that what you've written isn't, you know, absolute. Like, and that would be, yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. You know, because you've got a great premise. You've got a great premise. I know you've got these short stories, these 5 short stories, and you bring it all together, and you're in the library, and you rented the typewriter, and you went to look at the quotes. Also, no quotes from female writers, because there were no books written by females like before 1953. Am I right? Like, you know, there wasn't like Rebecca. You know, there wasn't Jane Austen. There wasn't Margaret Atwood. There wasn't any of that, was there? No, it was just books by men, wasn't it? You know. No, but like I disagree. Yeah, yeah. I also this good woman, bad woman thing. I think like Clarice is like a. I think Clarice is more than like an offset to women though. She's like an offset to the establishment, right? To the world, because it's like she's a free thinker in a world where no one's a free thinker. So like to me that transcends her being a woman. My problem though is that like Guy, like Ray Bradbury, you were in the library. You telling me there were no books on women in the library? There was like not a quote you could have used from Jane Austen or something. I don't know. Like it's just weird that like we're talking about the love of books, and I just couldn't help but notice it's like just men. And I'm like, I understand that it's like it's a dystopian world and women have these roles and men have these roles. I get that. But I'm also just like, you're talking about books, though. You're literally talking about books. Like, what did they do? Did they burn all the women books? So then all the men books have to get burned. But then they're burning any book. They're burning all the books anyways. So it doesn't matter about gender because they're just burning the books. So I'm just like, you tell me there just wasn't even one of them. Like, there wasn't even one. I don't know. Maybe there was one and I missed it. But like, it just at the end, he's just going off on all these books and like this like group of old men at the end. They're just talking about all these books they have in their head. No one's got like, I don't know. No one's got Rebecca. No one's got Wuthering Heights. No one, you know. No one's got like anything like that. No one's got Frankenstein, like, you know, like no one's got any of that. I don't know. Like, and also like the writing style for this is like horrendous. Like I just didn't know what was going on half the time. And like I was like, is that because I don't like older books? And that's just not true. I like older books. 1984 was written in 1949. Again, that's 4 years before. Dracula's written in 1897. Again, that's, you know, before as well, a couple of decades. My point is, I have read books before the year of 1953, and they're fine. They're great. So I'm like, and I understand writing styles are subjective. I also understand there's a different, people wrote about different things in different time periods. So like classics, there is a lot of, I think in classics there's like a lot of over description of things sometimes, like just to pad out length. I don't know. Like I just feel like there's so much description at times. Now Fahrenheit 451 doesn't have that, and that's fine. I love it. I love a like fast paced book, but it's also like it didn't lead anywhere. And this war happens, and I didn't care. I was like, oh, war was over in 2 seconds, great. And now this like hermit group of men are going to be more hermits, but they're going to go into the city. Fantastic. I genuinely just did not understand what was going on here. Like, books are bad, but if you have a book and a kid sees you with a book, that's fine, because I guess kids don't care about books. Kids don't even know what's going on with books. That's the world we live in. But also, what if a kid is absent? But then if you're a kid and you're a free thinker, they're going to kill you probably. They do kill you. And then like women do nothing. They just stay in the they just stay at home, and there's a war, and the women don't know anything about the war because the women just all gossip because that's what women are in this world apparently. So like, I'm just like, I don't know, like I just don't understand what's going on here. Like this idea of like women like gossiping and stuff. Again, like I hate to bring up 1984, but it's like the men and women both did jobs because that just makes sense. You double like the workforce if you do that. You can get more propaganda out if you just have that. So I'm just like, what's the purpose of having women like at home? Is that because they can think more freely? So you have to sedate them more? Is that what it is? Like what's the reason? Like because if it's this world of like, oh, there's a war, books are outlawed, no free thinking, everyone's got to do this. I'm just like, okay, but then why not double your workforce? What like why are women there? Okay, like do you know what I mean? Like, okay, so now just talk to me for a sec. Talk to me and tell me like what have I missed here? Tell what's going on. What have I missed? No, I just don't. But this is the thing. I don't see Fahrenheit 451 as a story, as a book about. I don't see it about censorship. Like it sound. No, no. It's like, how do I say it? Like I understand that a point of it, a key point of it, maybe. I understand that the key point of it is censorship, right? I get that. I get the whole act of burning books and trying to remove this idea of free thinking and just going with also so who what is the thinking then? Who is the establishment? Who is it? Is it just anyone in the time that the reader is reading it? So is it anyone who was reading it in 1953? The establishment is anyone who was reading it in 2020? Like what is it? So is the establishment purposely left off? That's fair enough if it is, but I'm just like, in this world where but it's like, but I'm just like, if you've got books like but like our book is our books the metaphor for media in general, for any form of creative media, and TV is the metaphor for any form of creative droney kind of media, like the TV in this thing can be like, no, yeah, but and I think that's like the ignorance of the book though, if that makes sense. So like this idea that like anyone can sit in front of a TV and zone out and stuff. I get that, but I'm also just like, it kind of belittles the idea of like TV that you have to engage with, because there's so many things like TV potentially like, yeah, and that's, but I'm just like, it just feels like you're belittling. No, no, no. So that's one point I was thinking about. They've censored the good TV as well. But I'm just like, but why can't you censor why can't you censor the good books and just have bad books? Like just have manuals. Like why not have manuals with just slogans that tell you how to think? Like why, if it's all books, like I guarantee you they're a bit like, we're talking about free thinking. They've probably burnt a book on like making like making a cupboard or something. And I'm just like, so books are outlawed, right? And like free thinking, but they've banned the book. They've banned like books, so that's like manuals. That's like, it's like manuals, diaries. I don't know, diaries make sense, but fiction books make sense. Non-fiction. I mean, they've banned historical records, accounts, ledgers, anything. Like in my opinion, when you say book, is that also files? I imagine files are books. So it's like is it something with paper with writing on? Is that what it is? Are there pens in this world? Like I'm just like, what's going on? And then they just, my point is, if you're banning all books, you've made a point here that like, you know what, I'm just gonna look it up. Fahrenheit 451. I know, no. But like I'm really trying. I'm trying not to be like, I'm trying to be like, because like I'm just like, it's a 200-page book. I'm like, I don't care if there's not much detail in it, but I'm also just like, if you've included a chase and the people who chase you as a joke just because they're silly teenagers or whatever, and they see you with a book that is outlawed, and you've got this 200-page book and you're not going into specifics, would they not? You can't have a sentence where the driver's eyes widen, not in shock of hitting Guy, but in the shock of seeing a book. Boom! We've established something. There. I think that's a better thing than whatever was included. What was included was like Guy realised that they swerved because it wasn't because they were going to hit him, it's because it was going to like top end the car or like flip the car. That's why they swerved. So like if he was actually standing up, they would have hit him. But because I'm just like, so kids are just assholes in this world. Is that what it is? There's no self-preservation. Is that what, like, where did that come from? Like I was like, so kids don't care. Like that just feels like a really heavy-handed allegory. No, heavy-handed analogy on like, oh, teenagers don't care anymore. Teenagers don't care what they're doing anymore. And I'm like, great generalization, amazing, fantastic. 200-page book could have told. Like, I don't think it's. Oh, I'm looking at this like. So, Fahrenheit 451 is a dystopian novel by American writer Ray Bradbury, first published in 1953, often regarded as one of his best works. I don't want to see what his worst works are. The novel, the novel presents a future of American society where books are outlawed and firemen burn any that are found. The book's tagline explains the title, and I'm just like, books are outlawed. Then that sounds quite scary. Dystopian novel. That sounds quite scary. Kid sees you with a book, doesn't report it. Not that scary. You've stolen loads of books before the beginning of this book that says it's a pleasure to burn. You've already taken loads of books and no one's realised. Not that scary. You've taken this one book and now there's a massive deal about it. Okay, inconsistent. You know, like I don't think that's nitpicking though. I'm just like, I just want to read, like, I just want the world to be solid. You don't have to do all the specifics of the world. I know I brought up stuff before, but I'm like, it could just literally be books are outlawed, firemen burn them, Guy Montag gets curious and sees a book. That's fine. I have no problem with that. My problem started happening is when I realised that he stole a book, which, you know, there was a big deal about, and he's just been doing that all this time. He's already been doing it. So I'm like, oh, so this isn't really that big a deal then if he's already been doing it. Like, he's literally taking up book after book after book after book, and I'm just like, what? And also, it's just funny that he does that as like Captain Beatty leaves. And they wait like 2 seconds. They're like, okay, cool, he's probably gone. And guess what? He wasn't gone because the Beatty sent the hound after. So I was just like, there's no self-preservation. Like everyone's stupid. You could be like, oh, everyone's stupid because they're not reading books. And I'm just like, that's stupid. I think that's stupid. like, oh, everyone's just dumb because they don't. What? Honestly, like it's also weird that he's won like. Honestly, like they said, oh, what was it? They said, apparently, like libraries were banning Fahrenheit 451, and Ray Bradbury was like, you know, like have they even read the damn book or something, right? I think they were banning Fahrenheit 451 because it's a bad book. I think they were banning it because it's not good. Because there's like a certain standard for a book, like it should just at least be like a good book, and Fahrenheit 451 isn't a good book. It's just like, oh, hang on, I'm just having a look at it. I'm just having a look now. Won the American Academy of Arts and Letters Award in American Literature. Oh, God. And the Commonwealth Club of California Gold Medal. Oh, God. The Retro Hugo Award. Oh, no. The Francois, what's that? Truffaut's 1960. That's an adaptation. Who cares? Censoring, banning. So yeah, there were banning incidents. So they were banned. So some places have censored it and banned. Like, okay, you could say. So you were saying that like Fahrenheit 451 could be this, not metaphor, but it can touch on this whole idea of censorship, right? This whole idea of censorship, yeah. I understand that. Like, oh, okay, this idea of censorship, right? I just feel like if you want to talk about books being outlawed, the idea of censorship, all of this, maybe just spend more than 9 days on the book, you know, maybe spend 10, maybe spend 12, you know, maybe spend like maybe you know, just spend 2 weeks on the book, perhaps, like maybe do that, you know. Like if you're going to talk about censorship, if you're going to talk about dystopian world, if you're going to talk about like a premise and you're burning books and there's firemen, I love that firemen burn books. I love the twist on that name, on that like term, on that job. It's amazing. I think it's fantastic. I think it's genius. I think the premise is genius. I just wish that like something more than 9 days worth of thought was put into it, you know. Like I understand it's a culmination. Like in the afterword he says like it's 5 short stories, and before, in the introduction he says, but I'm just like, it's just, I don't understand what's going on here. Like I just don't understand. I'm like, you want to talk about censorship, you want to talk about TV trashy soap operas, you want to talk about books, you want to talk about you want to talk about free thinking, like you want to talk about these things. Why not just like do more than 200 pages on it then? Why not just add a bit more detail on it? Like, by the way, when I say detail, I think I don't think it's a good book. I think it's, I don't like it. Like it was. That's the worst part. I was bigging it up. I was bigging it up so much to Dan because I was just like, Libby recommended it to me, and when she recommends a book, it always slaps. It's so good. And oh, the whole world recommended Moby Dick as well. Moby Dick's one of the worst books ever written. Honestly, Moby Dick is an argument for Fahrenheit 451 to work in this world. Like we should be burning Moby Dick. It's just not good. Moby Dick, like the only pro of Fahrenheit 451 over Moby Dick is that Fahrenheit 451 isn't as long as Moby Dick. you know. But ironically, I'm asking for this book to be longer just to explore more things. Moby Dick is overly long, and Fahrenheit 451 is overly short, I think. And I'm just like, you're saying like it didn't need to explain stuff. Fine, it doesn't need to explain stuff, but it's like I just maybe just give it like honestly like the book could still be 200 pages. Just include a sentence that says that like 7 or 8 days have passed. You know, Guy Montag's been reading books or sneaking them in. Like, yes, he's been sneaking them in before the book, but you've made this massive deal about how he snuck in this one book. He's done it like a million times before, and you could be like, oh, but it's still as scary as the first time. Why has he not read them? Okay, well now we're in the book at the point at which he's reading them. I get that, but I'm just like, I just feel like I'm making excuses for a whole bunch of questions I have while I'm reading it. And maybe I haven't got it first time. Maybe I've got to reread it. Maybe I just like I have not done this properly. But at the same time, I'm just like, I am I supposed to prepare? I thought this was a dystopian book about burning books and this whole idea of like creativity. It doesn't, and it's just it doesn't even say like the book that like sparks him. Like, yeah, there's a Bible, sure. There's like that, was it King James Bible? There's a Bible, I get that, but like he's reading like a bunch of books. Like he's reading different things, like poetry, different arts, different like he's reading different books. Mildred still doesn't get it, but Guy does because he's the only one. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like also this whole idea of like Guy Montag being the only one. Like again, I'm just 1984. The whole point of 1984 is that Winston wasn't the only one. There were loads of people that like slipped through the cracks of the totalitarian government's establishment, but they had ways of dealing with it under meticulous supervision. In this, it's like, yeah, books are outlawed, but if we find you, if we do, we'll get you, but you won't, but we won't. It doesn't matter. Like I'm just like, okay, like it didn't feel scary or oppressive, and it didn't make me think. It didn't make me think. Ironically, it didn't make me think. I just kind of want like 1984 made me think. I was like, oh my god, there's so much like meat to chew here in terms of premise and ideas and concepts, self-identity, self-thought, creation, like the whole idea of thought crime. I love it. I'm just like, you could say, like on one hand, you could say it's heavy-handed, but at least it's consistent. At least it sticks to what it's saying. Whereas Fahrenheit 451 is just like, oh yeah, books are outlawed, but it's not that bad. But free thinking, but also, if you do free think, we'll take you away. But also, you don't have to be like. It's scary if you free think because we'll watch you like we did with Clarice. But then if Guy Montag steals like a load of books, we won't care. Okay then, and the only way Guy Montag can get caught is because he's an idiot. Like, but it's just funny then that like it's all about suspicion, yet they don't know that Guy Montag is doing it under their very noses. Like, like again, you could be like, oh, that's the arrogance of the firemen to think that, but I'm also just like, is it though? Like, no one, like, I just feel like the firemen have to the firemen have to answer to somebody, right? Unless they're the top dog, and they're not. Like the yeah, oh, I'm just all I want is a story. Like okay, do you want to know something? I read Dagon by H.P. Lovecraft. That's 6 pages long, and it's great. It's 6 pages, Libby, and it's fantastic. It's not fantastic, but it's great, and it's like it's just consistent for 6 pages. A guy wants to commit suicide. He's on a Oh, Lovecraft's awful. Like he's like a white supremacist. No. I agree with you on that. But my point is, I read Dagon. It's like 6 pages. It's great. It's great. Arguably doesn't need to be any longer than that. It said its point. It did its thing, right? I understand that Dagon is not trying to do what Fahrenheit 451 is trying to do. But my point is like the length doesn't really matter if you just tell. Firstly, if you tell a quality story, and secondly, if you just like The Hobbit's not really that long a book, and The Hobbit's fantastic. Yeah, but that's okay. But as soon as I hear dystopian novel, of course there's going to be some sort of political commentary. There's going to be socio-political messages. There's going to be all of this stuff, right? Of course, that's what I think when I read a dystopian novel. But at the same time, if you sacrifice that for not telling a good like, if you have these things and you sacrifice that like by not telling a good story or not telling or not having good characters or not having good writing. Yeah, like what? Give me an example. One example. Really? I've heard American Psycho is really good. Yeah, I think, yeah. Let's talk about this off recording. How about that? Like, because we can keep on going. Yeah, we're 39 minutes in, which I love, by the way. I love it. We have a lot here, but like, I just think, um, um, I just think that like, for me, it just didn't work. Like, I just didn't. I again, I don't know what the message is. Like, you're talking about free thinking and this taking away of that and all of that stuff, but I'm just like, but I just didn't feel the urgency of that. I didn't feel like the consequence of that. I love books. I love books. I love film. I love I just love anything. I just love a good story or a good message that is creative. No, no. How do I say it? I love the creative arts. I love anything that is creative and immersive in that way. And I respect, like, you're trying to tell a story, amazing. You're trying to bloody, go for it. That's fantastic. I don't want to sound condescending, but I'm just like, I love it. My point is, I just love it. I want to read books. I want to watch things. I want to look at art. I want to look at poetry. I want to look at dancing. I want to look at films. Like, I love all of it. I want to look at theatre. Like, it's fantastic. It's an expression of an art form, and it's an expression of vulnerability and of a message that you want to tell. I get that. I just don't get what Fahrenheit 451 is trying to say. It's like, is it like books being outlawed? Like, I understand. But this is it. No, I've literally gone in. Like, I need to. Maybe I do. Maybe I need to have a look. But like, yeah. Well, that's it. I'm just like, sure, sure, sure. But like, I don't know. Like, I just think that Fahrenheit 451, I still don't get what the message of it. Like, because if you're talking about eliminating free thinking and everyone doing that, I just didn't like. In order for that to work, it needs to be a consistent message, and I don't think it was consistent in this book about free. Like, I again, the kids, they didn't care if he had a book or not. So like, this metaphor for free thinking and being liberal and stuff, the kids didn't care, and I'm like, you could say that, oh, that's saying that kids in America are also, they don't care as well, because like, the impression I get with that is like, oh, this is adults now, forget kids, this is an adult thing, and yet Clarice is a kid and she's like free thinking. So I'm like, well, and like, she's free thinking so much they don't let her do stuff in school, and she free thinks so much to the point where it's just like, oh, she's having all these ideas. I feel like it's so, you talk about 1984 being handed. I feel like that's heavy-handed. That's such a heavy-handed thing. And then they kill her, which is the most heavy-handed thing. Like her house, everything's gone. She's like not there anymore. And I'm like, oh, that's a bit mysterious. No, and then Mildred's just like, oh yeah, they killed her. I saw her kill. I saw them kill her. She's probably dead. I saw them take her away. She's probably dead. And then and like, she's and like, as far as the book goes, she's as good as dead. So I'm like, okay then. And so, like, I just don't. If you want to tell, and like, if you want to give a socio-political message, if you want that to happen, if you want that to be a concept, and you want that to really pay off, I just feel like it has to be consistent to some degree. Like, if it's not consistent, then it's not. You can't suspend your. The more inconsistencies there are, the harder it is for me to like suspend my disbelief. And you could say, maybe, okay, you don't want to suspend your disbelief because it's like, this should be happening now. This is a very real thing. I agree that it's a real thing, but not the thing that you're saying. That's the problem. I agree that there are censorships, and people can get punished for not thinking. People who have different ways of thinking, who are free thinkers, who have unique and novel thoughts, can get taken away. I get this. There's censorship of books, of films. I get this whole idea of censorship. That's fine, but the censorship in this, which you could argue is an extreme, isn't an extreme because it's inconsistent. Like, that's my problem. That's the problem. Like, I just don't think it's a consistent world. And like, again, 200 pages is a bit of an effort. You could have written more than that. But I get it. You're renting the typewriter. It's fine. You're renting it. It's 58 cents. It was 50 something cents. You're renting it. It's fine. But my point is, it's like, you're like, you're try you, again, what is the message? Like, what, free thinking? This is a world where free thinking, like, this is a world where free thinking has been taken away, and but like, if you're like, that's fine. Like, you can make a world where free thinking has been taken away. It's called 1984. But like, if you want this idea of like burning books and firemen, if you're literally telling me that it's a pleasure to burn, you're telling me that. You're telling me that the firemen love what they do. This is a world where the firemen love what they do. Guy Montag loves what he does. When he first meets Clarice, he is just like, who is this annoying person? I don't know what's going on. And then we find out he's just been taking books all this time. That to me is just inconsistent. I don't know what is the metaphor for that? What is the premise for that? That like excuses what that is. To me, that's just an inconsistency. That's not nitpicking, that's just bad storytelling. You've told me a thing, and you've told me another thing, and the first thing doesn't make sense because you've told me another thing. Books are outlawed, but you won't get punished if you see it. But you will, but you also won't, depending on the person. Oh, so it's not that bad. The firemen love what they do, but Guy Montag has been taking books for ages and the firemen don't know about it, apart from this one time he does it because he's been acting shifty, but not the other times because he's gotten away with it that time. And I'm just like, where is this, what is the metaphor? What is the analogy of books? What is all this, like, free thinking happened, but then free thinking didn't happen? Like, it doesn't, the story doesn't make, like, it's inconsistent. And then I can't buy this idea of books and stuff, and, like, inconsistent. Do you see what I'm saying here? Do you see what I'm saying? And I think you're wrong. I think I'm right. No, 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 no. No, no. I just awful. I don't like that we haven't. We've been talking for 45 minutes. I don't. I think we've not reached a conclusion. But I love it. Let's keep on going. Let's keep on going. Right. I'm gonna like maybe I need look. Maybe I need to read the book again. Maybe I need to look at some articles, some things like that. But but like sure, sure. But for the first, yeah. So maybe I need to read some articles and maybe I need to reread the book and just go in with a different frame of mind. I went in super excited. I was like, oh, this is gonna be so much fun. I'm gonna learn stuff. I'm gonna think questions about myself. And I went in with that mindset of just being really excited. I was going to love this book. I knew I wasn't going in for the story. I know I've said massive inconsistencies in the story. That was like an unpleasant bonus almost. That was an unwelcome side note. Or like I know I went off on it, but like I went in there just being like, I'm going to think things. This is going to make me think things about the idea of like identity, creativity, the impact of books, but also the impact of progressive and creative and forward thinking and unique art. It's just going to make me think about that, and it didn't. It just didn't. I was just willing it to be over, which is hilarious because it's 200 pages. Like I was just like, when is this over? Like and maybe I got to read it again. Maybe I got to read it again and look at some analyses on it, stuff like that. What I will say is, I looked at analyses on Moby Dick and analyses. Is that what is that? I looked at analyses on Moby Dick on videos on why it's so good. Having read Moby Dick, I'm like, no, like. I appreciate that. Like, I appreciate this. I enjoyed watching the video because I think an analysis is a completely different art form in and of itself. The idea of presenting information and communicating it in an effective, digestible, entertaining way that's also detailed and gets your points across accurately. I think that's awesome. I don't think what I'm doing is analysis. I think what I'm doing is just rambling. But like, I just think that it didn't it just didn't hit for me, and maybe I've got to read it again and see and go to it with a different context, or maybe I've misunderstood, but it really didn't work for me. Yeah, like I've said my piece here, but mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I just no. Let's yeah. Maybe I gotta read it again. I don't know. Like, but